Hi guys, so I said before that in order to have Boris Johnson replaced as Prime Minister, it's not the case of putting pressure on opposition parties to kick him out. They can't do that. What is required for members of his own backbench to look at their majorities in the last election and decide whether the Prime Minister is an asset or a liability. However, when it comes to Vladimir Putin, you need to look at the people around him, multimillionaires and billionaires who in a sense have propped up his regime for a number of years, and these people have influence also outside the Kremlin. London, for example. This issue was raised by Trevor Phillips of Sky News when he spoke to Brandon Lewis, but the Northern Ireland Secretary of State either doesn't know what's happening between some of these people and Boris Johnson, or is pretending not to. Have a listen.
Our own Parliament hasn't been very convinced of our fortitude in this. The Intelligence Security Committee, 18 months or more ago, said Russian influence in the UK is the new normal. Successive governments have welcomed the oligarchs and their money with open arms, providing them with a means of recycling illicit finance through the London laundromat and connections at the highest levels with access to UK companies and political figures. Now, look, we've been saying for years now we're going to clamp down. Actually, Russian billionaires are still whacking their money through London's banks. We haven't actually done anything to hurt Putin.
Well, I disagree with that. I have to say, look, before I was in this role, I was the security minister. And one of the things I know, without going into there's kind of areas that I can't really talk about in terms of security intelligence, we as a country, not only do we already have sanctions against Russia in place, actually as a country, I think we're in a position where we've done phenomenal work over the years so that we're not that kind of venue. We are an attractive place for the world's money and the world's businesses to invest and to...
It's a very attractive place for some things. We're talking about Russian cash being funneled through, as it was highlighted, the laundromat. Recycled, what do you call it, money laundering. That's what's happening here, money laundering. And this needs to be dealt with because it undermines the UK's position when they're trying to deal with somebody like Putin. Because Putin can turn around and say, well, I get onto my people to take their money out of Britain. And, well, we're going to get to something even more damning in a moment.
Trade, that's a good thing for the City of London. But we do have things in place with its unexplained wealth orders and a whole range of other measures that mean that we are somewhere that deters the kind of illegal activity that you refer to. And I have to say, if you look at some of the famous names around the world that people talk about in terms of that kind of Russian activity, this is not a country that they spend time in, it's not a country they come to. And I do think we have those measures in place to protect our institutions.
Well, they don't.
Really? Well, this is from 2020.
Interesting name popping up, and a name that is familiar when we look at these grids. Lyubov Chernukin, who is the wife of a former Russian minister who gave £200,000 to the Conservatives. In the past, she gave £160,000 to play tennis with Boris Johnson. I don't know who won the match, but it was a game-setting match to the Tory coffers.
So the Conservatives have, from one individual, taken £250,000 and £100,000. Like from one individual. The wife of a minister from the Russian state. Now, to play tennis with Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson is not Andre Agassi, okay? He's not Boris Becker. It's Boris Johnson, not Boris Becker. Why would somebody pay a huge amount of money to play tennis with Boris Johnson? The only reason is for influence. Boris Johnson was previously the Foreign Secretary. Now he's the Prime Minister. Why are these people giving money over to the Conservative Party? Because they like the Conservative Party? No, it's for influence. It's corruption. And, paying money to play tennis with Boris Johnson has nothing to do with tennis. It's about corruption. It's about influence. And, one thing is money being funneled through the City of London. Another is the Conservative Party receiving massive donations from these multi-millionaires and billionaires. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.